Hi, and welcome to Racine Kenosha Community Action Agency's Teaching Kitchen, located at Kenosha WIC program. My name is Andrea. I'm a dietitian at the WIC program, and I'm here today with Jerry, and we are demonstrating.
So today we're gonna make a tortilla soup. Have you ever had a tortilla soup before?
Ooh, I think maybe once a long time ago.
So I kind of obsessed with a tortilla soup. It's a very traditional Mexican dish from Mexico City. It's also the kind of dish where like in my family and probably your family, you have a grandmother that made a certain dish a certain way, and that's the way it's supposed to be. And then you'll be talking about the dish to a friend or someone else, and you find out that, wait a minute, other people think it's something else. But almost exclusively, this is a soup that is made with a tomato base and a little bit on the spicy side, and then fresh ingredients like fresh corn. And at the end, and we're gonna use chicken today, but you can also use beans instead of chicken if you wanted to make it vegetarian. And then at the end, you have kind of a group of toppings that you can choose from to put on it to make it yours. And so you could have avocado, but some people in my family don't like avocado, but you can have it there. You can make it a little bit spicier by having jalapenos or other peppers on top of it out to mix in. Cheese. So I love it. And of course, it has to have tortilla in it. So, yeah.
Perfect. The name sounds funny. How do you make soup out of tortillas? These are very dry.
And even stranger, like lots of things in cooking, it seems, why are you going to this effort? You actually toast them to get them crisp, but then you put them in the soup to soften them. But that's okay, because the toasting adds this really cool smoky flavor to it, and then you have a different texture when you put it in the soup. One of the other things that I like to use are these peppers called chipotle peppers that come in a tomato sauce called adobo. In Mexican cooking, peppers have different names based on the state that you get them in. So this is called a chipotle, but it actually is a jalapeno that's been smoke dried, which means it's dried over a long time with smoke, and then it, again, kind of to make it dehydrated and then rehydrate it. It is rehydrated in a kind of a vinegary tomato sauce. Incredibly flavorful, not necessarily really, really hot, but it's a great way to add some flavor without adding a lot of extra fat. Because a lot of times the flavors that we add to food add too much fat. Really flavorful. We're gonna use them in the soup, and one thing I like to do to keep it safer and cleaner is I like to just chop them up in the can. So I'm gonna take a pair of kitchen scissors and literally just go right in. When you buy them, they're actually gonna come out whole. So there are whole peppers in here. We're just gonna go a few times, just chop those up. And what you're doing is kind of making it more into a sauce. It's also the kind of thing where in my home, we don't tend to have any leftovers. So we'll open one of these cans and in a couple of days, it will be gone. But if that's not your household and you do have extra, kind of like tomato paste, I like to take some of it and put it in an ice cube tray. And then you can put it in your freezer, and when you need one, pop it out, drop it in whatever you're making.
Great technique.
It also, that smoke, you can smell it, right?
Wow.
Because it's the jalapenos, I will say it. So this one tastes a little bit hotter than normal, but because of it being the way it's prepared, you may have a little range of heat in there. So great idea to add a little bit, taste, and then add more. You can always add more, can't take it out. The other thing that we're gonna use today is fresh corn. I'm a huge fresh corn fan. Do you like?
Here in Wisconsin?
Yes, and I remember, so I didn't grow up in Wisconsin, I grew up in Tennessee, but my family had a farm, and I remember going out to the field and pulling an ear and tasting it right there, and nothing tastes as amazing as sweet as corn right then before the sugars start to turn to starch. So I'm always a little bit confused as to the best way to get the kernels off. Do you have a technique that you really like to remove them?
Well, I try to clean up the ear. It's virtually impossible to get all those little hairs off there. Silks, what they call them. And then basically you just can cut the end off and cut down with a sharp knife and just take small sections at a time. But if you have that end cut clean, then you're not going to do that and have it fall over on you. And then you end up with kernels.
And also great to have a cutting board that is firm, steady, not slipping around as well, right? And this is, I like the edges on this, but as you also could do it with if you have a wooden cutting board, you could moisten a dish towel or paper towels and put it under, and that's going to help it from slipping around as well.
Then we have crushed tomatoes, which you would be able to purchase with your WIC benefits. Corn you can get either with your WIC benefits, or if you pick up some farmer market coupons, vouchers this year, you can go to your local farmer's market and get those. Avocados you can get, onions of course you can get with your WIC benefits, as well as corn tortillas in a 16-ounce package.
And I actually called, when I wrote the recipe, I called for broth, because I tend to buy broth in big cases, and I've got a lot of it, and I had it, so I wanted to bring it and not waste it. But this is so flavorful, I don't think that you would miss much if you made it just with water, because there's plenty of flavor in the chipotle, in the onion, in the tomato, and in the corn. So even though we might call for broth in the recipe, it's fine to just use water, you'll be fine. And then I see that you've got an avocado.
Yes.
Avocados to me are tricky.
Why do you think that? Why do you say that? Can you hand me that knife, please?
Yes, I can. I did not grow up eating avocado, and I find that sometimes when I buy them in the store, there's a wide range of, sometimes they're really tough, sometimes the skin is tough, but the and then you've got this core in the middle, the pit, and so I would love some advice on how to best open that up and get the flesh out of it.
Sure. So I looked for an avocado that had just a little bit of give to it when I press on it, and then
Can I feel it?
Yeah.
See what it's. Okay.
Yeah. See, just a little bit. And then I'm just gonna cut in half. And I'm not cutting through, I'm just cutting right around that pit. There's a big pit in the center.
Oh wow.
So I end up like this. And then you can I just leave it in the skin. I can either do slices this way. For this recipe, we're going to want to do pieces. So I'm just slicing that way, and then I might want to set this down so I'm safer, and slice the other way.
And so they're going to come out as pieces.
Yes.
When you turn it out, you've already got.
When I take my spoon, that out of there, I'm going to just take my spoon and go right inside here.
Oh wow.
And I've got all these beautiful little avocado pieces.
I think that's awesome, because it is something to me that can be a little intimidating. I love that you made that so easy.
And no waste. So I would just do that with the other side too.
And then we also said we're gonna use chicken in the recipe today. And I think this is a really great way to use leftover chicken. It's also a great way, I think, to use those rotisserie chickens that you can get at the deli section of the store, because they come ready to go, slice off and chop it. And so these are actually leftover breasts that we're gonna use. The recipe calls for 2 that we're gonna shred. And so that's exactly what I would do. I love to just kind of pull it apart with 2 forks, and then you get these really consistent kind of bite-sized pieces. Again, this is already cooked. So when the soup is done, you're gonna add the chicken in, and it doesn't have to simmer too long to bring this up to the right temperature. Awesome. I think now we can probably move on to starting to cook the onions and make the soup. So now we're gonna make the tortilla soup. So I'm gonna start by taking 2 teaspoons of vegetable oil. I'm gonna put that in, and I'll just turn the pot on so it's already heating up. Thank you. I'm gonna move that a little bit around in the bottom. It's only gonna take a few seconds for that oil to heat up. And then I'm gonna add the onion. You can tell that the heat was right because you can start to hear it. It means it's cooking. And I'm just gonna stir that around to make sure that the onions get coated in the oil. And I'm gonna add 1 teaspoon of the garlic. Thank you. Stir that in as well. And so next is chili powder. Just gonna add the chili pepper, the adobos.
You say a couple, 3 tablespoons maybe?
Yeah, the recipe calls for 2 of the peppers, which we already told you to cut. I'm gonna say that's maybe 3 tablespoons. It's not quite a 1/4 cup. And I'm gonna add in the tomatoes. Yeah, I'm just gonna stir that all together. And then I want this to cook for probably about 5 minutes. I think it's gonna take that amount of time to blend everything together. It is hot, so you wanna be a little...
Do you want me to pour that for
Yeah, if you don't mind. 2 cups of that broth. And again, remember, if you've just got water on hand, that's fine. It's gonna taste just as great. I had this container of broth that I really wanted to use up, so we're using that today.
And we will be putting in some water because this is 4 cups roughly, and
Yeah.
we call for 6 cups.
And then with each time you add it, you want to stir it in and make sure that it's blended. It's the right consistency. Alright, we have all broth and water in there, so we stir that together. Then give it just a second to come up to a boil.
There's 2 cups.
Yep, 2 cups of corn.
That one's a little less, this one's a little more.
Averages out.
Equals 2 cups.
Stir them in. But we're just gonna add that chicken in if you don't mind. And I'll try to keep the plate close because as that comes off, it is gonna splash a little bit. I'm gonna get burnt. So here we have all the ingredients of the soup are in there. So at this point, I'm gonna let it get up to heat, bring it back up to boil, and then lower the temperature and let it simmer for probably about 15 minutes. And that lets everything blend together. So now we're gonna toast the tortilla wedges to go in the tortilla soup. Which
Okay.
you need tortillas if you're gonna call it tortilla soup.
I guess so.
And the recipe called for 4. And so I like little thin strips. You find these cut very easily. They're a little firm, and so I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 5. And then I'm gonna do 1 in the middle so they're not quite as long. And you don't have to put oil on them or anything. I'm just gonna take them and layer them in a single layer on this baking sheet. And then we're gonna put them in the oven at 375 for just a couple of minutes. They can burn really quickly, so we wanna watch them. But they're gonna get crisp. They're probably gonna start to, the edges are gonna pull up a little bit. So that's another great way to tell that they're getting close. It's gonna take a little bit of an angle there. Oops, sorry. No, go ahead. So those are ready to go. I'm just gonna take them and put them in again at the middle rack that you've got. And we're gonna let those bake, probably no more than 3 or 4 minutes. So these are the white tortillas, and you can see they've gotten crispy right there and they started to separate. So I have lots of really great ladles at home, but I also like to just use a measuring cup. I think it works great. So if you want to do that and get a scoop out for yourself.
You can also keep track of your portion sizes that way.
Also true.
So this is what 1 cup of soup looks like.
No, you got 1 scoop. I'm gonna get 2.
All right.
And so then, now that it's scooped out, you can top it with whatever you want to top it with. So I'm gonna do some cheddar cheese. I like that. Sprinkle that right on top. And I'm probably gonna do some lime too. Squeezing lime on it adds a really nice flavor. That one dropped in, so we'll do another one. So again, if you're able to taste it, you would taste that there is smokiness from the chipotles. I actually taste the chili pepper, although it's not too spicy, it's just the right. I think the lime, like you said, adds nice. The other things you could do, if you wanted to put chopped onions on top of it, maybe chopped red onions, green onions, sliced green onions, other cheeses. I think this is awesome. So I know my family would eat this all day long. How about yours?
Yeah, oh yeah. It wouldn't last very long.
Awesome. Well, I'm really glad I got to make this with you today. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Hope you make it, hope you enjoy it.